everyone. Welcome to Unbox It with Youth Hub Africa. In case you don't know what this podcast is about, this is your go to podcast for addressing pressing issues affecting young people in Africa and beyond Africa. Today, we're not going to be talking about female genital mutilation. Yes, I'm trying to draw the curtain a little bit over female genital mutilation. This doesn't mean that the fight against female genital mutilation is over. No, it is far from being over. And also, if you haven't seen our videos where we spoke about female genital mutilation, I implore you to go back to our YouTube page and watch the videos, and most importantly, take action. Now, back to the focus for today. Today is a really, really special episode. This is being brought to you by Youth of Africa in collaboration with Malala Fund, and we are doing this in celebration of International Women's Day. Yeah, International Women's Day is a day that is observed annually on March 8th. And this day provides a platform for young people to advocate for gender equality and also to highlight the challenges faced by young women worldwide. Coming back to the focus of today, we are going to be talking about girls' empowerment through education. And you would agree with me that education is a fundamental human right, but despite this, millions of girls worldwide are being deprived of this right. That is what we are going to be exploring in today's episode. And to help us break this topic down, we have three amazing guests with us in the studio today. First on my list, we have Nabila Aguele. Nabila is the chief executive at the Malala Fund, Nigeria. She is a member of the global executive leadership team. She's an accomplished lawyer, a public policy expert, and advocate for gender equality with more than 20 years of experience. Nabila, it's great to have you in the studio with us today.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the second amazing guest we have with us today. We have Rotimi Olawale. He is the executive director here at YouthHubAfrica. He's also an accomplished public policy expert with over 2 decades of experience in youth advocacy. His passion for education as a transformative tool to alleviate poverty drives his commitments to creating platforms that provide opportunities for young people. It's such a pleasure to have you with us today.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you.
And last but not the least, we have Mercy Kiani. Mercy is a girl child advocate, a visionary leader for that matter, and she is also um, the co-founder of Echo Heart Initiative. Mercy, thank you for joining us today in the studio.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah. To start off, we have discovered that Nigeria, as we have it, it's been said that Nigeria is one of the countries with the most out of school children, and we can see a devastating figure of about 10.3 million, with the highest significant being girls. So looking at the rate at which girls are moving out of school, I'm going to start by asking, what are the barriers that these young girls face? What are the challenges that young people face that are making us witness this large number of out of school children? And I'm going to start with you, Nabila.
Thank you so much. And thanks again for having me on the program. So, girls and children more broadly face multidimensional challenges when it comes to accessing and completing quality education in Nigeria. I'll start with the fundamental. We have a huge multidimensional poverty problem in country, and increasingly, especially over the last couple of years, there is inflation, a cost of living crisis, and so many families are facing difficult trade-offs, difficult decision points when it comes to what to do with the limited resources, and oftentimes a huge casualty of that is girls' education. Beyond that, there are other issues we know, and it is well documented that there are safety issues with schools across the country, and particularly exacerbated in certain regions. There's issues around gender based violence, which continues to be pervasive across the country. And we also in Nigeria face an early and child marriage problem. We have the largest number of child brides in West and Central Africa, eclipsing numbers in other countries. And there's a cycle there where girls who are married early have other responsibilities, have limited access to school and education, and then their children, if they don't go to school, are less likely to go to school. So there's a vicious cycle there that needs to be addressed. Another fundamental issue that I'd like to point on is limited resourcing. As a country, as a government, Nigeria still does not spend nearly enough money in human capital and especially in education. We continue to be well below the 20% of capital expenditure, federal expenditure for education that we've committed to. We're below 9% consistently. And even where there is money, it's not being used well in a way that is gender responsive and in a way that meets the needs of these girls. So those are some of the issues that I wanted to touch on.
Well, I think I agree very much with Nabila. If you look at the complexity of Nigeria's problem, you would realize that in the last 20 years, Nigeria's population has increased by over 80 million people.
Wow.
And majority of these are young people, right? Children, the biggest population in Nigeria, those under the age of 30. And if you also look at investments in education, how many new public schools have been built in the last 20 years? Significantly, very little. So one of the challenges we have in Nigeria is that we are not very good at planning ahead and also making adequate provision. So it's not surprising that we have swaths of people who are not in school. So access is a big problem. Actually, as I travel across Nigeria, before I started doing walk around education, I used to see the numbers and feel there are many people who don't want to go to school. But as I travel across Nigeria, what I actually see is that there are many people who want to send their girls to school, their children to school, but they are challenged by access. So if the school is very far from your community, and then you also bring in the things that Nadila speak about, security challenge, then you hesitate to send your girls to school if they have to walk 10 kilometers and 10 kilometers back. So that's one challenge. There's also the cost. A few years ago, we did a study on looking at the eating costs to education. So if you say government education is free, we calculated in Borno and Kaduna that the eating cost is around 50,000 naira. You know, they ask you when you resume in school, you bring broom, bring cutlass, bring this, bring that. You have to pay for all of that. In some schools, they say pay PTA because the school does not have enough teachers, and so the PTA need to hire additional teachers. You have to pay for that. In some schools, you pay for exam fees. By the time you pull up all of these costs together, even though on paper government has said school is free, the parents still have to cough out significant amount of money. And in many places, money they don't have. They literally don't have. So we have all of these challenges. If you had a chance to attend public schools, I attended one, a mix of public and private school. My public school, we didn't have toilets. And so imagine in a school with no toilets, you just walk into the bush and do whatever it is that you want to do. For boys like me, it's not much of a challenge because we don't have specific needs for water that girls have. And so it's not unusual that you then see girls do not go to school when they're on their period, for instance, because there's really nothing that they can use to have good hygiene. And so these are some of the challenges that we see that is contributing to the numbers that we have, and that many advocates are working in different angles to bring it down.
I'll talk about environment because I come from the north. And my mother is from Kaduna State. And over time, I have seen my cousins being married out. So sometimes the perception from the environment that the children come from, the background of the children, they feel educating a female is actually a waste of money. As Nabila said, the cost keeps increasing. We keep analyzing a whole lot of things, and then they keep banking on trying to send them out so that they can bank on the dowries that we brought to them. So I think even as we're addressing the education background, the accessibility problems, we also have to try to seep into the mindsets of the people that have children that are focused on marrying them off more than educating them.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point there, because I know of a situation where most times I feel in marginalized communities, you see that most parents are even the problems. You find a situation where a mother would prefer her child to help out hawking items or being in the farm or helping me make money instead of going to school. You are better off helping me to, sell my goods. What's the point of going to school? So I think that these problems are really, really barriers to why girl children do not really go to school. So
Can I actually add to that?
okay.
Because I love this point that you've made, and Rotimi has also made it about the choices that communities have to make, and the need alongside that to shift those mindsets. So I think with that in mind, there's some 2 points that I'd love to make, which is that to understand, to influence people's mindsets and to shift them, we need to understand and really look into why they make the decisions they make. They make these decisions, as we've already said, because they are thinking about the cost, the challenge they're facing, etc. Whether it's they need support at home, or they need them to be out hawking, or they need them to be married off so that there's a reduced burden and there's a dowry coming in. And in addressing and shifting those mindsets, we need to make a strong case for why educating a girl is beneficial to her family and to the community at large. And for me, I think that's where a lot of the disconnect is. We focus so much on shifting mindsets by placing blame rather than by saying, families are facing a huge challenge. They do, in fact, want to send their girls to school. Girls do, in fact, want to be educated. But given the trade offs that they're making, we need to help them make it make sense. And we need to demonstrate and show them that there is value to you, both financially and otherwise, in having your girl go to school.
Why is it important to send little girls to school, and how does it affect their future? How does it benefit them in the long run?
Right. So, as you said at the outset,
Mhm.
we believe education is a fundamental right. Every girl and every boy is entitled to go to school. Now, putting aside the rights element, when you look at adolescent girls' education, especially, so at Malala Fund, we're focused on secondary school education for girls. There's huge catalytic impact for the girl, for her community, her family, and for Nigeria at large in sending girls to school. And so for us at Malala Fund, we see girls' education, adolescent girls' education in particular, as a national development imperative. We cannot move forward as a country if we don't get this right. And if you compare Nigeria to other countries, whether it's in Africa and beyond, that inability to invest adequately in education, in basic and secondary education, is causing us to fall further behind as a relation to our peers and even other countries that are not at peer level. When a girl is educated, she makes better health choices. She is more likely to make better choices for herself and for her children. And you see less of an issue with respect to nutrition and other issues. Her children are more likely to go to school. In fact, if your mother does not go to school, your chances of going to school are very slim. So, to break that vicious cycle, you need to invest in girls' education. Her earning power increases, not only for herself, but for her community as well. And according to a World Bank study, countries lose between 15 and 20 or to 30 trillion dollars in terms of labor and just money coming into the economy from not educating girls. So there's a huge issue with respect to GDP growth and also a girl's ability to contribute to her community at large. And then beyond that, that ability to have an awareness. When you go to school, there's a level of exposure and awareness. You're better positioned to choose a future for yourself and to be a leader and to then help others towards leadership as well. So the benefits are broad, both for the girl and for society.
Thank you very much, Nabila. And I'm gonna come to you, Mercy. You're a girl child advocate. So can you tell us what experiences or stories, personal stories you've had that shaped your advocacy for the girl child?
All right. So 2 years ago,
Okay.
I was volunteering at a school, a summer school. That's during the holidays, August. And I was teaching the children. It was a broad class. I was teaching them English. And the class was actually responsive from the boys' side. But then I noticed the low response from the ladies' side. So I asked her what her name was, and she didn't know what I was saying. So because the community understood Hausa better, so I asked what her name was in Hausa, and she told me. And then that was actually a summer class for GSS2, and they could not actually do the take the alphabet. They could not recite the alphabets, and they could not recite A to Z. And at that moment, I had to shift the class, break it into two to teach the ladies differently and the guys differently. And then I found out that one of the issues that they experienced was that because of insecurity in the environment, and then the school that they were going to was actually a government school. So the government school had been on strike, and the strike had affected their learning, their education. So most times they go to school and come back, and most times they don't go to school. Nobody cares because nobody is being accountable for them at the moment. And then that has actually affected their education. And so in the long run, I think about what these ladies will turn out to be after here. And that was one of the push that I had to actually try to educate the ladies more, so that they will see beyond what they see now. We'll try to see a future where they can do more, where they can help others, where they can be a voice that can be reckoned with. I think that's one of the reasons the girl child education should be amplified.
What will
I think you said it all. Perhaps two additional points that I would say to that is that if you look at education in retrospect, if you look at an average middle class family with children, education comes from different things in your immediate environment and also formal education. If you take kids to travel, they travel interstate in Nigeria, they've gained their eyes have opened to many things, right? That's education. If they have access to TV, to cable TV, they can see what's happening not only in the world around them, but in the world all over, right? If their parents come home with newspapers and magazines, they can immerse themselves into what's happening. It helps to build children's imagination. If you then take, if you flip that and look at a family who has none of these resources, each time I drive home at night and I see kids walking in traffic, and I just compare them to my own children and say, it's just an unfair society, right? If at the end of the day, both kids sit for a national examination and then I blame one for not passing, they don't have the same access to the same resources. You know? And that's why I always say talent everywhere in the world is evenly distributed. What is not is opportunities. And it's our work in our role is to ensure that we can democratize access to opportunities, ensuring that girls and boys, regardless of where they are born, regardless of their postcode, we don't use postcode that much in Nigeria, of the village in which they are born, that they have access to a decent education, you know. And I think she mentioned something. It's also one of the reasons I've heard repeatedly all over Nigeria where parents don't send their kids to school. After 5 years of school, if a girl cannot spell her name, so why are they going to school? So why should I they spend 6, 8 hours in school every day, and after 2 years they can't write? Come to the farm because I can see output of the farm writing with me after 3, 6 months. We have something, and if I have 2 or 3 of my girls around helping me, we can double the impact. But you're going to school and I can't see anything. So and that's the poverty learning that we're talking about. That increasingly poor people are going to schools that are under-resourced, don't have adequate teachers. Many classes are missed because the teachers are not well paid. And so the people who go to school end up not learning anything. Compared to middle class families, they go to school, they have a French teacher, they have a music teacher, karate teacher. It's fair for everything. And so it's just the inequality surrounding that they are not able to compete at the same level. And that's what we're talking about, to provide access to opportunities to girls all over Nigeria. And you see the value that they contribute. I just imagine myself, if my mom wasn't educated, would I be sitting here today? And also their contribution, their earning power, their income. At some point we lost my father, and then I imagine, if my mom wasn't educated, would I be able to complete my university education? And so that's that access to, if you have an education, you can earn an income. If you have an education, you can take quality decisions for yourself and the health of your immediate family, but you also can contribute to the larger society. Some of the best um, political leaders we produce outside of Nigeria on the global scene are women, and we celebrate them every day all over the world. We have become Nigeria's biggest exports. We have them at the WTO, at the United Nations. They're making us proud, and we're so happy. And I'm sure many people want their daughters to be like that. And we have to continue to push this work.
I love what you just said. I wanted to add sort of, this link between the quality of education and the issues that we're trying to address around access and completion. And this challenge that families and communities face around what are our children actually learning when they go to school, if anything. First of all, that the environments are not fit for purpose, especially for girls with their unique needs, and then they're not learning anything. And I think this is a lesson for policymakers, right? In terms of, when you make policies, when you implement policies, they need to be holistic, and they cannot be derived in the abstract. You can't say that you want to address out of school children without confronting this very quality issue, both in terms of infrastructure, access to toilets, issues around periods, etc., security, and then the quality of teachers, the type of teachers that you have educating the children. So for me, that link is really critical. And it's, again, a lesson around listening to the girls, listening to the communities, just even hearing the stories being shared today, is it should be informing decision making at the policy making stage. Rotimi,
Okay.
I mean, you are a well recognized education champion. You've been a champion with Malala Fund, and your organization has been an incredible partner to us over the years, and you've pushed for reform across a number of different areas. What motivates you to focus in this way? And if you were, sort of with where we are today, if you were to identify 1 to 2 key areas of intervention that you feel could be catalytic, what would those be?
Wow, so many questions packed into. Uh, Well, one thing that I've always talked about in the course of my work that I've seen is, when I study education budgets, I think from the 90s, late 90s, uh, especially at subnational level, state level, investment in education was low. But over the last 10, 15 years, I think many states have picked up. I don't think you'll find any state in Nigeria that's doing less than 10% budgets on education. In fact, at some point, Sokoto was in 26%. Kano was in 22%. We have about almost 8 states doing over 20%, including Oyo State.
Right.
But if you now go into the numbers, right, I think now in 2025, we know the solution to solving the educational problems in Nigeria. There's enough data, there's enough reports, we know what to do. But investment in education is not evidence based.
Mm.
Almost, I mean, and this is just a guesstimate for me, right? 70 to 80% of investment in education is going into construction. So it looks as if once you build a shiny new building, a new classroom, you've solved education. That's what politicians like to do, because a governor wants to do show and tell. If I go to my community, I can say, look at that building. I built that for you. Vote for me for second terms.
Right.
But if they do a new curriculum, still, there's nothing to show.
You can't commission.
If you do phonics and the children cannot read and write, you can't say, hey, 10 children, show them on TV. See. Now they can read and write. So increasingly, we're not using the evidence to direct where we invest our money. We're using the optics, the political optics. And so for me, that's one big challenge. I think if we resolve that, the money is not enough. I think we need more money in education. But I think if we extract more value per dollar invested in education, we would get significantly more results that we're seeing today. I mean, look at our parents. They didn't even get to study. Some of them studied under the tree. Some of them walked barefoot to school. But the quality of the teachers they had, contributed immensely. You see the diction of our parents. You watch many of them on TV. You see them in the classrooms. You are wowed. And now we can't even teach today's children that effectively with computers, with the internet, with more books. Why are we not able to do that? I think the solutions are known. We need to follow the evidence, not the politics, right? We know where all the out of school children are in Nigeria, the states that carry the highest body. For me, I say, why are we giving why are we giving all the states equal amount of money?
Yeah.
When a state like Sokoto has 5 times the number of out of school children at Osun State, why should they get the same amount of money to solve that same problem? We're using politics to distribute resources. Absolutely. We should follow the evidence, right? And for me, that would be one singular thing. If I have the opportunity that I will put more effort on, we have to follow the evidence. Enough of politicking. Politics is good, but we can't solve the education challenge with politics. We have to follow the evidence, and we have to follow the evidence.
That's great. And I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. What I'd love to for you to share, I, one of the things that we really emphasize is that girls have a voice. They're interested in school. They want to go to school, and they're very sophisticated in their thinking about their education and their own future. So, can you share maybe some of the reflections that you've heard from the girls that you've and young women that you've interacted with, and even some of the thoughts that you had for your own future when you were considering education?
All right. So recently, I work in the period poverty line, and it's actually one of the things that affects the self-esteem of ladies, because at some point they as Mr. Rotimi said, education is not just within the boundaries of a classroom. When you travel, you also access education in your homes and other things. So from their homes, they don't have upbringing for how to take care of their bodies, how to accept that having a period is part of them, and what to do about it. And so when they encounter situations like this, they don't know how to navigate through situations like that. So I think when it comes to the adolescent girl child, education on how she feels, how she takes care of her body, and how it should affect her self-esteem is something that should be worked on. Because over years, there'll be a whole lot of changes that will happen in the body of a girl child. And it doesn't matter. Sometimes they might have good sanitation situations. They might have a whole lot of things, but then trying to navigate the self-esteem of trying to uphold something that is part of life is something that should be worked on. And so in my interaction with girls, I have always told them that they should learn to accept themselves the way they are, and they should not like try to let anyone put them down, because every other person in the classroom, every other person wherever they are is different from what they are, and they are capable of doing more. So if they are sitting down to overthink obstacles that are going to stop them from achieving what they want to achieve, they will find a whole lot of obstacles. When they focus on how to grow better, how to be a voice, how to speak up, and how to learn to become someone better in the future, they will always find a way. It's just like this quote that says, when there's a will, there's a way. So we need to seep into the will of the girl child to let them know that once they have a will, there will always be a way, no matter the obstacles that they are actually encountering.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. So, just to wrap this up, what message can you give to girls out there who are listening to us right now? Let me start from you. We go like this.
I mean, so for me, I think the message would be that I think that many children growing up in Nigerian homes, depending on the kind of homes that you grow up, we're taught to follow instruction,
Yeah.
but not to be inquisitive. I think that one of the things I always encourage people, children to have is a spirit of inquisitiveness,
Yeah.
to develop it and never lose it, to question things, to ask questions. And I think that's, for me, is the foundation of learning. It's not that you're just going to school and you just garbage in, garbage out, just memorize, cram, eh, and then pour it out. I think education starts with inquisitiveness. How does this thing work? Back in the days when they buy things in the house and we unscrew everything down, and then maybe we miss 2 or 3 screws and we can put it back together. I know what happens at the end of the day if we do those sort of things. But I think it's part of learning, for kids to figure out how things work. Many times you would see in many households, boys are encouraged to do such. Girls are not allowed to do those kind of things. You want them to play with dolls and come stuff like that. But I think that spirit of inquisitiveness is one of the things that drives learning across a generation. I don't think it's even just for girls alone. I think it's a general life lesson that I've learned. But I think it's very useful for girls to continue to be inquisitive and to ensure that nobody asks them to keep their mouth shut. Right? They should always know that they have a voice and they should use it. We need it in our society in Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Let's move on to you.
Love what she said. I guess my message to girls would be that I know, all of us know that you have thoughts, you have wishes, you have dreams. You aspire to more oftentimes than what you have in front of you, and that there are challenges, there are burdens oftentimes that get in the way. I think one thing that's been really valuable for me has been mentorship, safe spaces, finding and paying attention to the people who seem to really take a keen interest in your growth and your development. Sometimes those people will be your parents, sometimes it'll be a teacher, it can be an uncle, it can be a cousin, it can be your own sibling. It can be a member of your community. And I think really holding on to those people and using those mentorship relationships to try to, where you struggle, get your thoughts and your ideas and your wishes out there. And I would say just continue to dream, continue to push for and demand for what you want and what you're entitled to. Education is yours. And where there's an opportunity where people say educating you is not of value, um, counter that. Say that the evidence is does not show that, and really educate yourself on the benefits of your education to your family and your community, so that where you have an opportunity, you can make the case for yourself.
That's brilliant. So back to you, Messi.
Yeah, I've heard very wonderful contributions, but then I will say to the girl child that she should not put a limit on herself. Because once you put a limit on yourself, you give someone the access to actually limit you. So, as a girl child, there are a whole lot of challenges already as a girl you are facing, and a whole lot of people don't even believe in you. And so, you should not be one of the reasons why they should not believe in you. Yeah, you should try to always seek beyond. Yeah, you should try to seek beyond the ordinary. You should try to be extra. You should try to be extraordinary. Yeah, you should always bring a little extra
Into the
anything
ordinary.
that exactly. Yeah. So I think for the girl child, no limits, be inquisitive, and always push for bigger dreams. So, yes, that's exactly what I have to say for the girl child. Anything is possible as long as you put your mind to it. Yeah, so don't think about the impossibilities. Think about
Yeah,
possibilities.
thank you all very much. You heard it from them. Put your mind to the work, be inquisitive, let nobody limit you. This has been a really, really insightful conversation. This has been really, really incredible. And I hope that the girl children out there, even the parents, have gotten a lot of insight from the conversation and the things that we have discussed here. And thank you, Mr. Rotimi. Thank you, Nabila. Thank you, Mercy. This session has been insightful. And girl child education is not just a conversation, this is a movement. Every girl deserves a chance to learn, to dream, and also to succeed. And also to you, our listeners out there, this is also an opportunity for you to take action, to make change. in your social, even in your little society, in your little space, wherever you find yourself, even as a girl child, there should be no limits to your thoughts, no limits to what you can do. You can be extraordinary. Thank you very much. And we also want to say a big thank you to Youth Hub Africa and to Malala Fund for making this podcast to be possible. And I am your host, Confidence, and this is us at Unbox It with Youth Hub Africa. To you out there, follow us on social media. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like this video, and also share it to your network wherever they are. And until next time, keep dreaming and be the change you want to see in the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you.